Now, Inferno, has Inferno been updated with the side bases can only do 65-ton mech builds and repairs? It is. Now, flamers on this map, risk reward or just a bad idea? Now, it appears that the Jaguars have secured center, and we now have 12th VR heading back to capture one of the side bases. This map is punishing for its heat, and that makes it hard enough if you're having to worry about attacking things. But deciding which bases to capture and when can be critical given that undue weight. And do you think it's possible that if the Jaguars were somehow able to hold center for most of the map, that the 12th VR team could counter by capturing the other 4 bases? Now we have a full-scale engagement here. They're bringing 5 of their 7 assets, eventually bringing 6. Proxima's bringing the Flamers, and Snowgibbon is in first, the rest of his team moving in, and this is going to be all about focused fire here. Not overheating your mech, not going in lava, just adds to the challenge. Nuts. Now, the skill level is pretty even, I'd say, in this map. Jaguars have got some heavy hitters. The Vegans have got heavy hitters, and I think ultimately this may just simply come down to better strategic choices for which bases to go after and what assets they choose. Not choosing a wrong asset and dying can really make a difference here. Flamer Harasser might sound like a good idea at the beginning of a match, and that might work, but as soon as you have 6 things on you and you die... Now, we have not seen any aircraft yet, and that's a bit of a surprise to me, Spetnuts. What situations would you expect we would start seeing air here? What things should happen? And now the Vegans did get hit pretty decent, so they're going to have to think about repairs. I think the difference there, Spetnuts, was that there is no repair base at center, and the Jaguars had to fight to get it to begin with. And then I think that the fact they didn't repair was the difference there, because the Jaguars were fast.
That's a good point, Duelist.
And it's been the same core team mostly today. We've done a few substitutions.
Kinray runs into the lava.
Ah, but he was dead already. He's just not giving them... Now, how does that work? If you die versus somebody killing you, how does that work in ticket difference or in score difference at all?
Not sure about ticket difference, but I know that it will typically set you back a rank, and it will inhibit your ability to progress forward. I've personally had, and I've seen people really struggle through TC matches because they had, one or two deaths due to lava. They just really had a hard time picking up the score needed later to climb out of the hole.
Now, it looks like the Jaguars are concentrating on sending a few things to opposite bases, and the Vegans now are beginning to upgrade. Ben now and Rotary Autocannon Bushwhacker That's a surprising choice. A rotary autocannon weapon on this map?
Uh, Probably gonna need to use it in circle fighting. It can be done, and it can be done well. I would typically advise using two of them at the same time, so that one of them is at least getting some side or back armor at all times.
Now, one thing working against the Jaguars here is that their skill and coordination is going to be very heavily countered here. Every single player that's playing on both teams today is used to organized gameplay, used to playing their role, and I think that it's going to be such a close match that perhaps falling into the lava or perhaps taking a Shiva at some point and crashing in the ground in a close fight might make the difference. All the little mistakes can add up pretty quickly.
Yeah, especially on Inferno.
At the moment, the Jaguars have two assets, three assets dancing, all lights. But the problem is they're facing Ben Ben and an Untat. They've got a lot of things to shoot here. What do you focus on when you have more things in front of you? What do you as a pilot like to focus on? Lighter things, pilots.
I prefer to focus on lighter clan assets because they typically have the most amount of weapon systems and can be the most dangerous if left unchecked and just open on the battlefield. If I have the opportunity, I like to try and focus mechs first and steer them away, try and herd them away from their tank support, because tanks oftentimes will get stuck or simply just not be able to get good LOS.
Jaguars are going to lose a lot of tickets here. They're putting up a good fight, but I think that the Mega Rangers are able to bring all of their assets to bear. So even if the Jaguars survive, I don't think they're going to be holding on to this cap very long. Spets. And sometimes that sucks for timing. You win the objective, but then the enemy is just able to respawn fresh while you're damaged.
Yep.
And as of yet, still no planes. And I think that that'll be changing soon, as you mentioned, kind of toward the middle part of the match, that you start getting enough money to think about bombers and fighters and all of these different things.
Absolutely.
Have you flown on this map before? Well, none of those weapon systems will be used yet, as the airbase is still nice and quiet for the Rangers. They have two assets, a Raven and an Owens, capturing back their closest base, and the SJs have a long-range asset there, but and that isn't good because that's a Vulture. That's good. Because by the time you start getting into heavies, when you make mistakes, if you lose an Owens, that's only a few tickets. But once you start getting into heavies, I mean, what are most heavies? 6, 7, 8 tickets? Because Ben Ben and Sabers and a Rifleman, Ben Ben's and a Chimera, they're starting to push the objective at center. When you need to back cap, which the Vegans are having to do a bit right now, do you prefer to send one person per base, or do you like to keep them teamed up in case they run into something? The Jaguars have a bit of a lead. Snowgiven has gone solo to capture one of the side bases. The Jaguars have gone back to repair and are all balled up there by that south nearest base by them. And At this stage, they're activating a bit of distance. There's a lot of cover there at that center base, but sometimes you have to attack from range. The Jaguars pushing in force against a force of 4 assets at center. We're about to have a decent battle. Now in this map, Arrow 4 is too hot, Long Tom too hot. Snow Gimmin coming up to hit the Jaguars in the back. Nolans. Jaguars are bunched up, attacking all in one thing, and now are pushing a bit. But after a while, if one team continuously takes center, you have to alter your strategy. Now, what's happening here a little bit is that 12th VR brought Raven in and has an Owens, so they have pretty good radar cover, and I think that could be an advantage if you bring things with half the HP into this game, because tracking the enemy can be beneficial before you commit to an attack. Now, what about a black? Is that an asset that you ever play around with on this map? If it's too hot for Arrow 4 missiles, and you have to be careful with a Long Tom, how effective are missiles just in general? Are there any missile systems that can work here, both with the heat and the topography? And now the Jaguars' slight lead has all been but erased, and there is Saber in a dual PPC and SRM Corsair. Do you know if that particular model is a fighter or an attacker or a bomber? There are two. Ben now in a Corsair. I'll identify that in a moment, and this is exactly what the Jaguars were worried about. Because the Jaguars do have some pilots that can fly, but you would have to think that the Vegans have much more practiced pilots at this point. Spets bringing 2 aircraft can work well, but what are the disadvantages that you run into if the enemy team counters it well? Now, against a Corsair, that thing doesn't have the greatest armor, decent speed, but you can make anti-air work on the lighter planes. But if they start to bring heavier things, such as Xerxes or Shivas or even Visigoths, outside of Gauss cannons, given the heat limitations, what other weapons can be effective against ground to air? Okay, so at a certain point, if the air becomes enough of a problem, you have to commit resources to it to be to counter it. speaking of the Vegans, they have opened up a 35 and climbing ticket lead. They've got them worried about the aircraft, and they now have 3 ground assets unopposed at center. It'll be critical for the Jaguars to make a decision and quickly what their priority is, because if you start splitting your resources, things can snowball in a hurry in the situation. Evan and Cairo can fly at a respectable enough level in the air, but he's also one of your better attackers on the ground. So I think that you're correct in your analysis that the Jaguars are just going to have to focus on ground-based anti-air, or even just to try and concentrate on overpowering ground assets. Yes, speed, I do agree with you, would be something that can counter the planes a bit, because even if you take damage, you can at least get away from there. The Jaguars are in a pretty bad hole now relative to where they've been in most of these games, and it'll be interesting to see how they counter. Now, those planes have to reload pretty often with their bombs and ammunition-based weapons. So there are... But that also, if he gets caught out in the open, that he will be a prime target. Yes, and on top of this, now that they have a solid lead growing near 100 tickets, well, getting there, 12th VR, yes, 12th VR can garrison their forces in multiple spots, and even if the Jaguars commit with a full force to an area, that radio works faster than legs. It's very easy. As in this case, Carbonell trying to be sneaky and now has 3 mechs plus a plane attacking him. Now Spetnats, you're here partially because we already had our 7 assigned, but in this case, if you were in and Proxima gave you the option, would you have taken to the air by now? Yeah. So if I'm hearing correctly, you're saying even somebody like a duelist who is a below average pilot, sometimes even just getting something in the air that stay on the tail of the enemy can slow that attack down. Jaguars are trying to put some pressure on, but those bombs and I think the thing we've overlooked here is that those aircraft can see anywhere on this map. So even without radar, they definitely have countered the SJ movements before the SJs even move. All I know is Rook's in a world of hurt. He's trying to put pressure on coming from their back, but now he's being greeted 3-on-1 by rotor autocannon and bushwhackers, and he gets 1 kill, but he's not going to get another. As for that avatar, let's go have a look here. That's one way. If the plane survives, though, uh-oh. Yes, we've been killed now. Saber has a battle arm. And even with default weapons, that's still... Carbonell says, not today, duelist. Now, the Jaguars are starting to put pressure on center, but the issue they're going to have here is, again, if they don't pull back fast enough, they're going to be damaged. And even if they can't hold on to center long enough to counter the ticket bleed, I don't know the base situation at the moment, but all 12th VR has to do is have 3 bases right now. Now, the Jaguars have secured center, but what's the cost? As shooter, go ahead. The ticket bleed has been reversed, at least for the moment, but how long can they hold on to center because they need to erase 40 tickets? Yes, and at the moment they're shooting at shooter and trying to make to the determination whether a base is safe. And as we can see, Ben is way in the background. Uh, that base you'd have to imagine belongs to them, so they should have two bases at the moment compared to the equivalent of, I believe, two at center. So I believe that we're tied up on bases from what I can tell. The Jaguars have a slight lead. Now, Ben in a Mad Cat. That's the other thing, though, is that as you start to bring heavier things into this game, if you're not careful, it takes you a long time to get to your location. And if you run into too much trouble, Spetnots, you don't have the speed to escape. Now, folks, keep in mind some of the players that you're watching are across the ocean, but we now have a Gauss Demolisher and a triple UAC 10 Saber and Snow Gibbon moving up in tanks. And honestly, if you need to start punching above your weight, tanks on this map can be devastating. And now Proxima does not have radar information, except that Rook has said they have tanks coming. But now Proxima has his damaged team with the enemy Vegans closing in on him from 3 different sides. Strategic retreat. He's decided to stay, but he's now getting hit in 3 directions. And Blood Asp is how many tickets roughly? Proxima trying to lay down some damage, but short of playing dirty and just trying to flip a tank upside down by running into it, I don't think there's much they can do. The Jaguars will try to hold their ground, which is a bit of a surprising decision. They're going to lose a lot of tickets here from their deaths, but they are getting a few kills themselves. Yeah, that's an even trade, you can say, perhaps. The Morgu and the Blood Ass going down. And holy shit, I apologize for swearing, but I'm that surprised, broadcast partner. The Jaguars actually mostly held their own during this and might actually repel the attack. Of course, just as I say that, to where even if Vegans take it, they lost a lot of tickets and they will be in the same position the Jaguars were. If you don't head out to repair, you're toast the next. Now, the Rangers won the engagement. We have a plane in the air, a Shiva for Saber. So now, not only did they hold on to the engagement, not only did they hold on to center, they have balls in their court. They can use what assets they want. They can position at what bases they want, and it'll be up to the Jaguars to figure out a way to get this lead back, Spetnots. Now, Proxima, in all things, is in a rotary autocannon Warhammer, which, mind you, he did well in Evan's entry trial yesterday. But high explosive bomb, MRMs, and nobody around to assist you. Clusters, okay, thank you for the correction. Which means they're even more damaging. Regardless, though, Saber will likely have to go back to rearm. However, the damage is done. Proxima is not able to capture a base for the time it takes him to repair, and that lead is going to grow quickly for the Inner Sphere. Saber died. He must have crashed. So, okay, there's 8 tickets. All right, now the Jaguars are bringing 4 assets to center to counter the 2 damaged assets and 1 fresh asset. So it's a 3-on-3 fight at center, and Carbonell just almost went in the lava. He is safe. The Jaguars do not have the armor to win this engagement, I don't think. Rook Zero is going to try to hold his ground in his rotary autocannon Bushwhacker, but the Vegans are doing a very good job of picking assets to counter what they think the Jaguars will use. And the Jaguars are going to lose more assets at center unless they get some reinforcements. But the problem is that 12th VR is getting reinforcements now, and frankly, if this assault at center fails, you would have to think Jaguar's strategy has to change completely immediately. You've mentioned, and I agree with you, that it might be time to start looking at side base captures, try to outspeed the enemy, try to not be where the enemy is. It's a bit hard when there's a plane in the air, which will assume that Saber will remain in the air. But the Jaguars are going to continue pushing for center. They now have the forces to contest, but if it fails 2 times in a row, Spinats, I just don't think you can come back from that in this tight of a game. And Carbonell didn't explode, and he can still fire. The problem is, 1, he can't move, and 2, there's nothing in the range of his turret. And the Jaguars putting up a good fight, but high cost here. They're getting damaged themselves, and their lack of an air pilot on their team in this round, I think, could end up being a major difference. Who knows, Spetnaz, had we let you play, maybe this would have been different. But at the moment, the Vegan Rangers are able to repel once more a full-scale Jaguar assault. It looks like that's the way, because this only leaves Cairo, and Ben is still fresh around the corner. Let's see what Ishiyama can do in his damaged Bushwhacker. Or just let Saber take care of it. He takes down Ishiyama. Rook Zero, so the Jaguars are able to hold on, but they only have 2 assets.
This is true power.
Frankly, it might take something like that to do this. Just hero mechs meet hero pilots. But as you can see, though, that plane continuously is turning into a nightmare for the Jaguars. Now, keep in mind that they have not secured center yet, and that he has to get Rainbow defeated. The problem for him is there are 2 assets shooting him, and Jaguar's assault will still likely fail, even though they were able to kill pretty much everything there. That's just the advantage of the spawn time. Bet not you can defeat the entire enemy, and then suddenly they respawn.
Suddenly the base is gone.
Yes, at this stage, you would have to wonder if it's crossed either leader's mind to take care of the side bases by any means necessary.
Absolutely.
It looks like that they have secured the thing, so my doom and gloom was a bit early, but still, Rook Zero heavily beat up, which only leaves 1 Vulture at center, and a fresh shooter coming up in his Warhammer rifleman. So a close fight. Let's take a look at that tickets. Oh, it's good, but it's not good. The Jaguars have stopped the bleed, I think, but and have closed it to 25 points. But Spets, you need to be in the lead with when you get near 10 minutes remaining.
That's for sure. Although I have been in situations with actually shooter nonetheless of note where we've turned around TC games with 5 minutes less.
Well, it's going to have to be come from behind in the fourth quarter here for the Jaguars as kids in a dual UAC 20 MK2 suddenly realizing the heat is a nightmare with that asset.
It is powerful. I'm actually surprised he didn't bring the LBX variant.
Now, Saber is nowhere to be found at the moment, but you can always bet that if he's flying, he's nearby. The Jaguars have secured center for a moment, but they need to get those damaged assets rotated out of there immediately. Spets, I think that's been one thing that we can fairly criticize during this battle, that the Jaguars have not timed their repairs well.
Absolutely, and it's even harder to time repairs correctly when you're running at a 7-player strength. You know, you have to either put people into cells and hope that they get damaged evenly, or just have to have that really gelled team coordination to just make it work.
And now, Rick Hunter and Ishiyama have captured a side base, which will either even up the bleed or remove most of the gains that the Jaguars have had by taking center. And I've had a crash. That's never fun.
Don't worry, I'm still recording. Wait, where's my sounder for this?
Achieved with CryEngine.
There we go.
Now, Spetnots, what are we looking at? Where's the fight at? What part of the map is there exchange of gunfire?
Doesn't appear to be any major fight at the moment. Let's see what Prox is up to. Kidson looks like he's coming out of the main hangar. Or, nope, he's returning for repairs. Have to find 12th VR.
12th VR is at one of their, a few of them are at their side base. Saber has not returned to the air that we have seen. Or if he has, he's taking his time.
Could be back capping.
Perhaps the Jaguars have upgraded enough that the plane is hard countered if it gets low enough to bomb. And how effective is high altitude bombing on this map?
Ah! Don't do it. And also, that really isn't the play style of Saber, who's now returning for attack runs. I honestly cannot say I've seen him do high altitude bombing. Always comes in very low, slow if he can get away with it, erratic maneuvering as he comes out of the turn to stay away from projectile-based anti-air.
Now, as they move their assault against the Jaguars at full strength to center, tell me about these laser-guided bombs. How do they work, and do they follow tag or narc?
Oh, they are wonderful. In fact, if any of our listeners are interested, I encourage you to watch a video called called Close Air Support, or CAS, Smoke Jaguar style. It's on YouTube. It's on my channel. And in that, we use a Xerxes with laser-guided bombs and narc assets both on the ground and in the air. Laser-guided bombs follow... Oh, Kenray fell in the lava. The floor is lava. Laser-guided bombs follow both tag and narc, and they are incredibly powerful in that if they all hit the same target at the same time, and sometimes in the same component area, they can occasionally alpha a...
Saber is...
Disconnected?
Saber has lost his plane. He ejected, I think, on purpose. It's a 6
A bold
game.
strategy.
It was a 6-ticket game. Now it's a 21-ticket game. Look at that. The Jaguars have the lead. Can they hold it? Can they hold it?
This is true power.
This is true power as we get into the straight brawl.
The Jaguars need to clear out center, and then they need to prepare. We cannot emphasize to our viewers enough, Spetnots, that this game will be lost in a close fight if the Jaguars do not time their repairs correctly.
There is just a shit ton of pain at center. Rainbow is walking into a meat grinder. It is now 166 to 104 with 8 minutes left, ladies and gentlemen. The ticket lead is with Clan.
appears somehow that we are equal on bases somehow.
What in base cap tarnation?
Or not. If not, it's slow. And here comes Saber with the same plane again. And goodbye MK2. And goodbye other thing. Right there's 20 tickets down the drain in 2 seconds.
Damn. Away it goes.
Now, but the Jaguars do have the ticket bleed after all. So, how do you finish this up if you're either team?
This is the... Did Saber crash again?
He's purposely ejecting to capture.
A bold strategy.
Exploit? Question mark? No.
Not an exploit, but I'm pretty sure he loses tickets when that Shiva gets destroyed, correct?
Correct. Legal strategy, sportsmanlike. We'll leave that up to you at home. But still,
Saber tier memes is what I would call it.
Maybe they need bases that bad, Spetnots. Maybe this is suddenly turned more than we are led to believe.
Seems like a reasonable strategy, although at this point it may be good for a Smoke Jaguar to... I'm not sure. If Saber decides to fly again... if he was to fly again, I'd say under tons so you're not worrying about bleeding tickets.
Right. Like, I've done that strategy before, but that's always in a Sparrowhawk or a VTOL. Now, Saber's going to get some BA weapons, but he is now removed 90 tons from the field, Spetnots.
Has he disappeared into the mountain? What in...
There's
there he
base
is.
there for BA spawn, but while Saber is an excellent BA, and let's give him credit. Let's say he is as good as a heavy mech out there. He can't move very fast, and he's stuck at center. If he can hold center, great, but Spetnots, when you play as a BA in a tight map like this, you are effectively down an asset.
That's correct. I'm wondering... I can't actually see the who has what bases at this point.
Well, I can tell you that center belongs to the Rangers, and then we can probably make guesses on where the other assets are nearby. So let's see. One of the side bases, let's see if anybody's here.
Proxima could use some covering support because his back is out, and there's a battle armor.
The Rangers are spread all over the field, which leads me to believe that they are down not only a small amount of bases, I believe that the Jaguars have secured a good chunk of the field. Because right now, the Rangers are literally spread over about a 1.5 kilometer spot. And the Jaguars are defending the other end of the map.
They can
Still
get
a
on.
close enough fight.
If they can get on back onto center, they might be able to take it.
Well, they are sending 2 assets there now.
I think Saber just jumped over the lot. Up! He lands safely. Watching
Yes.
Saber is always a real joy just because of his
It is.
ability.
I have seen Saber hold the Mirage base as a battle armor against 10 assets for the better part of 5 minutes before.
Believable.
He is capable. Now, Carbonell tried to get a bit cute here and capture one of the side bases, but Rick Hunter's Mad Cat was having nothing of it. But Rick Hunter will need repairs now.
It appears Rook is going to capture center, unless... I don't see any Vegans approaching.
Ishiyama is nearby. Ben blew his asset up, his demo. The Vegans are making too many mistakes. They could still turn this around, but at the moment, they are effectively down 2 full assets.
95 to 74.
And that can change with 1 engagement, but the Jaguars definitely have the advantage at the moment. Can they hold on, Spets? How do you play to hold on to a 20-point lead with 5 minutes?
Oh, ball up in the highest tiered capture point and try and bleed out any tickets. Just stay within 5 to 10 meters of each other. It doesn't appear that 12th VR is probably going to fly again this late in the game. And at that point you can... Oop, they're amassing.
But yes, flying at this stage, unless it's the dual heavy Gauss Shiva from the days long gone,
Elf!
it just won't make enough of a difference.
You know what 12th VR needs right now?
And they are flying.
Oh!
What do they need, Spetnots?
They need...
As the Shiva goes over.
Such a lust for revenge?
They need a lust for revenge.
They need to murder ball. What you're saying is, forget the bases. You know, Spets, you're correct. They need to get everything together, pick a target, and shoot until the game is over. You never know if you're going to take enough assets.
I'm wondering if they're waiting for Saber to do a bit more damage to soften up before they go in.
Because if they can clear the Jaguars out and get center, they still have a chance. If the Jaguars take any bit of their forces more than 2 or 3 dead assets,
Snow Gibbon and Shooter have gotten caught out in the open, and Smoke Jaguar is taking full advantage.
this is going to be 15 tickets. Saber's going to get some. Saber's going to get his. He's going to get some damage.
Nope. Saber has decided to.
That was a mistake. I'm sorry. I'm trying to be.
And Cairo's still flipping. He's the little tank.
Now, I will grant you that was not sportsmanlike. I will grant you that, and so be it. I'm not criticizing anyone. You're late in the game. You're desperate, and he does take the tank out. But now, is Cairo going to be happy about that?
Nope. Cairo's fine. He's flipped himself back up with the extraordinarily long turret of the Morrigu.
Now the issue is Saber at this stage has effectively cost his team effectively 40 tickets in about a 5-minute span. Now, how many did he gain when he controlled center? We don't know, but it is a bit of a surprise to have him continue flying with Shivas only to use them as transport.
It is a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see how it plays out.
Now, the only thing that's going to save 12 VR is if they can murder ball and plow through every single Jaguar in front of them, because otherwise the Jaguars can lose half of their assets and still win this.
They need to. SJ needs to not peek, and the Vegans don't have the force and numbers, the firepower to take that. Essentially, at this point, they're waiting for the rest of their assets, I would presume.
I'm a bit surprised that Proxima hasn't told Kidson and Kinray balls to the wall, clean them up. But they have the forces to do it.
I don't think they know that they do.
Okay.
Proxima's taking Gauss fire from, looks like Snow Gibbon.
But I am very surprised that the Rangers haven't been a bit more aggressive in pushing up, because they do not control center. Obviously, the Jaguars are holding, contesting center.
Oh, looks like the Vegans are going to start pushing in now. It's going to be a pincher attack from two sides.
And if they take down every Jaguar, they have a chance.
That's a Morrigu. That's a Morrigu. 2 Morrigus.
Can they focus fire?
Not fast enough. There's too much cover on the inside. And
They're doing damage.
it's 76-18 with 20 seconds left and 2 aerospace in the air. This game is over.
On behalf of SJ Spetnauts and Smoke Jaguar, we thank you for watching this battle on the Chaos March SJ Network, and we'll see you next time as this ends the battles for tonight, Saturday the 7th, and we'll return tomorrow with coverage on the 8th.
Hold on.
Spetnauts, it's been a pleasure.
One question.
Yes.
They just crashed into the ground 2 more times. What's the tally at now?
It's 0. They're out of tickets.
No, I mean, how many times have they crashed?
That is 6. Maybe we'll see more tomorrow. Spetnauts,